So lots of support then for Dr. Patrice Motsepe there as he seeks a second term as president of CAF. And we are going to go over to Egypt now to find out more about what's happening at CAF. And we are joined by the head of TV and acting director of communications at the Confederation of African Football, Luxolo September. And there he is, the son of the soil, Luxolo September, joining us here. Good evening, Lux, and thanks for joining us on SABC.
How are you doing, my dear brother?
Oh, great. I thought you were going to say salam alaikum. I'm glad you still remember your roots there, Luxolo September.
I want the people at home, and Chipang. I'm still one of them. So it's very good. Glad to have you here, Tabiso. And I listened earlier on to the insight. Very interesting by your colleague Velile. Very good. Thank you very much.
Yes, and how would you describe the build-up to this nomination process that's going to close on the 12th?
Well, I think, first of all, Tabiso, it's good that we must reflect on African football. And I think maybe the progress that has been made in the last 3 years of African football is worth reflecting on. Look at what was discussed and said extensively at the General Assembly in Addis Ababa. CAF, first of all, the Patrice Motsepe, Dr. Patrice Motsepe led CAF, reducing the deficit from $49 million to $9 million in less than 3 years. And look at the revenues of AFCON, the revenues of CAF going up by 40%, 100% increase in subventions for member associations, 150% increase in women's football prize monies, 40% increase in competitions of CAF Champions League, AFL, and so on and so forth, meaning that there is more money. All the money of football is going back to football. This is a new era. And I think President Kamanga rightfully said that this is an era whereby people are respecting African football. And I also heard President Tariq also reflecting on these things. I think, the theme, Tabiso, and also what Dr. Motsepe has said is the word continuity.
Mm-hmm. What was interesting in the statement that came out from CAF last week, which I probably think you wrote, was that he has accepted to stand for nomination. Does it mean that maybe he wasn't sure, he was contemplating not standing again, and the other presidents convinced him to stand?
Look, I happen to have attended almost all the zonal union meetings with all the 54 member associations and all the 6 zones of CAF, and the theme and the tone in those meetings was quite clear that if you don't stand, we will force you to stand. I think, Tabiso, people can see the progress that is happening in African football. People can see what is, the structure that is there, the globally competitiveness, the sustainability model that is being built. And I know that the people, I'm sure at some stage, Dr. Motsepe himself will address these things personally because these are personal things. But I think there is a general consensus about where we are and where we need to be, and the momentum that is currently on.
And you've been at the heart of this financial revival, Lux. I know the work you've done with the broadcasters around the world, making sure that African football is not only seen around the world, but is also even accessible here on the continent. And you've received votes of confidence from these big broadcasters. What would be the next challenge now for CAF if he does get a second term, and for the president also?
I think all of us as staff were as good as the leaders we have, Tabiso. Everything is about leadership. A lot of people come to me and say, look, you've changed the way TV and broadcast is happening at CAF. I always tell them, listen, it's about the leadership, it's about the space of leadership. People don't know that, Dr. Motsepe, on a daily basis, he wants to know what is happening. Sometimes for hours, sometimes at 1 a.m. in the morning, we discuss CAF football and what we can do to improve CAF football. I must thank the broadcasters. You know that before he came on board, Tabiso, there was actually a TV blackout. You couldn't watch Champions League football in South Africa. You couldn't watch any football of CAF in South Africa. One of his first mandates, and one of the things we've successfully done, is to make football accessible to the 54-member association. But the football in CAF, the AFCON was watched in 175 countries. That is not just Africa. That is globally competitiveness. So my point is this: the success of all of us in administration has been because we've got the right leader who pushes us, even in the wee hours of the morning. He wants to know the progress of what we are doing, Tabiso. It's been the most tiring period, but the most fulfilling period for all of us.
We've had the support from Southern Africa. We've had the support from the Ivory Coast. They believe that they hosted a very successful AFCON, and that's why the president should continue. But how are the North Africans feeling, eh? Is the support from North Africa, are you able to gauge from this Congress?
No, I work in administration, Tabiso, so I'm not the best place to comment about this. And I think Velile and others would be the most expert people and best placed people to comment on this. I'm not involved in the politics of football. I'm in administration. We've got an election to run on the 12th of March that is going to be here in Egypt. And we've got as well the nomination which closes on the 12th of November. At an administration level, we have to focus on these things, not on the sentiments and what's in the media.
Okay, lots of work coming up for you, Lux. But thanks for always being available to speak to us here in South Africa and giving us an update of what is happening as far as the nominations process is concerned. Shukran.
Well, I thank you, Tabi. So just on a parting shot, I must also thank, people like Nomsa, the CEO of SABC, for just being the breath of fresh air in how she's approached sport and football in particular. And I think we need an SABC that is actively involved there. And we're looking forward to watching all the CAF matches live on SABC very soon.
Yeah, and shout out to the head of sport, Ms. K also. If you want the job done, put a woman in charge.
I know that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. The son of the soil, Luxolo September, speaking to us about what's happening as far as the CAF election is concerned. There, Dr. Patrice Motsepe being recommended for a second term.